Hey, it's me again. This video, we're going to be talking about self-care and reviewing this from our session in the spring RA training series that we did. So, what is self-care? I know that all of us hear it all the time, and we know what it is, but I think it's important to define it one more time because I think it can give us a jumping off point before we talk about how we implement it in our own lives. So self care is anything that we do to take care of our mental, physical, and spiritual health, because all three of those are what make us a person. And I think we are very bad at addressing all three at any given point. So we need self care to address them and rejuvenate all the parts of our lives. The overall rhythm of the school year is already hectic. So then when you add in the RA role, it just gets even more amplified. So there's going to be times this year where you have to take care of yourself. I'm sure you've even noticed that in the first 2 weeks, 1 week of being back with RA training. So I just want to encourage you to, as we go through the rest of training and move in and this semester, to have an honest conversation with your staff or with your RD about what self-care looks like, what it looks like for you specifically, and when are times where you need self-care. And it's okay to say that and say that you think there are things in your life that are being unattended to, so you need that self-care. Sorry. Um, there's a part in our RA job, or our residence life office, that we're dealing with people constantly, especially in our freshman buildings, because they're new, they have a ton of questions, they're excited. And so I think there's a really big chance for compassion fatigue, or fatigue that just sets in because you're always helping somebody and you're pouring into other people. Um, there are difficult conversations that are going to happen in our buildings, and so you might get compassion fatigue through talking with residents, or secondhand trauma sometimes can happen based on just even hearing some of the stories that people might tell you. So you want to have a plan to avoid all of this. So make sure that you're being self-aware. Again, self-aware meaning, what is it that you need? What is self-care going to look like for you in that moment? Process the experiences when you're ready to do it. So if you've had a really difficult conversation with a resident and it just had a really big impact on you, and you don't know how to deal with it, like, don't be afraid to process that with a friend, an RD, someone on the staff. I think processing is super important, and it's something that kind of can help you move on from an experience. And finally, making sure that you create a self-care plan. So what does self-care look like for you? How can you do that when balancing every other thing in your life and the RA role? But creating a self-care plan intentionally, I think it makes it a little bit easier to implement as well. So let's talk about something that is a big challenge for me, which is self-care versus escapism. I love a good Netflix binge. I'm watching the Great British Interior Design Challenge right now on Netflix. So I am very good at just sitting down and watching 3 or 4 episodes at a time. And so even though, like, we might call that self-care, I think there's a balance between actually taking care of yourself and doing things that rejuvenate these parts of your life, your spiritual, your mental, and your physical health, versus escapism, meaning that we're trying to just escape the responsibilities that we have and just kind of veg out and not do anything. I think self-care is great, but it also can be challenging. So make sure that you're challenging yourself to do whatever it is that rejuvenates you. I was going to say renovate because of design challenge, but whatever. Something else that we can practice is mindfulness. It's a hard and it's a daily task. I'm not good at it, so I have to use a lot of help. I have a breathe app to remind me to breathe throughout the day. And I use apps like Headspace on my phone to help me be mindful. And when we talk about mindfulness, we talk about the practice of focusing your attention on the present moment. So I know when I'm on call and I'm going to deal with something that's really difficult with a student, Before I go in, I kind of just check my emotions, check where I am physically, and try to be mindful before I go into the room and kind of just prepare myself for the situation. And so I think there's those little bits of mindfulness like that that we can implement throughout our rhythms throughout the school year and even with our RA roles. So don't be afraid to engage with mindfulness. I know that it can sometimes feel like a topic that everyone's discussing, and so um, it can get a little tiring to talk about, but I think it's really important and is something that the benefits far outweigh the maybe hesitation to have the conversation about mindfulness. So that's all I have to talk through. I think a few questions, excuse me, that I will pose to your staff is one, how have you practiced self care in the past? Number two, this is for returning RAs and RDs. How did you practice self care last year during the busy seasons of the school year? What worked and what didn't work? And then finally, for everyone, what are things that you need when you think about self care? And how can you take care of yourself during really busy seasons of the school year? So sit back, reflect on these with your staff, and we will see you in another video. Thanks.